Battery supply has been a challenge for EV makers since the beginning. Well, since before the beginning, Tesla found a way to address it with partnerships. First, by buying from Panasonic and then building a factory hand in hand with them to provide enough cells to roll out the Models 3 and Y. But where are batteries coming from these days? There's a big push to get them domesticated, and we're going to cover a bunch of stories about that. I got my buddy Herbert here from Brighter. We're going to do just that. We're going to get brighter and figure out what the headwinds are and how we can overcome them. Can we overcome them? Probably not. We'll find out. I'm Brian. Welcome to Future Asa. Herbert joining me, as he so often does, from the basement of a telegraph office. So that's
Right.
very exciting.
Okay.
It sounds like you're in the, is that not a telegraph? Oh, are you under train tracks? Herbert's getting some roof work done. We deal with this because we live in the real world where real world things happen. Welcome, Herbert. Great to have you as always.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, what I'd explore further with the battery scenarios, like we are seeing quite a number of these automakers setting up battery programs, which is great, and domesticating it, setting them up here in the U.S., which is great. But I'm curious what's going to happen. What are they going to do with these batteries when the factories are on production level, and when they themselves have slowed down, their plans of how many EVs they're going to grow? I do think that there's not going to be. It's going to be the supply will not meet demand. Demand's going to skyrocket, but it's just a matter of deciding if that's how this is going to come together. Yeah, I'd be curious to find out.
Very much the case. The uphill battle for more made in USA EV batteries. From Motor Trend, automakers are pushing to produce enough here in the US to power their cars with or without government help. Despite headwinds, including higher costs, public charging hassles, and skeptical consumers, electric vehicle adoption continues to steadily gain ground. According to the IEA, global sales of battery electric vehicles reached almost 10.8 million in 2024 compared to 8.7 the previous year. China led the charge with more sales, surpassing 6.1 compared to 5.1 in 2023. And of course, this year's number is that China has already sold more EVs than the US has sold cars in 2025. So that's kind of a big deal. So China has the huge advantage. They've got the capacity, they've got the technology, and the US is behind, said Jessica Dunn, who studies clean transport for the Union of Concerned Scientists. That's the reason for the recent investments and government tax credits and grants. Now we know those grants and programs have been rolled back somewhat, though it looks like the most recent budget maintains the producer credit. EV production continues, battery production continues to rise. So according to Bloomberg's battery survey, the volume weighted average price for lithium packs dropped 20% in 2024. To 115 per kilowatt hour. Pretty good. Cell manufacturing overcapacity, economies of scale, and low metal and component prices, and the ongoing shift to lower cost lithium iron phosphate have all contributed to this drop. Any big takeaways so far?
Yeah, I mean this is the dichotomy that we're facing, right? China has both electric vehicles skyrocketing. You just gave that stat, right? Which is this is the moment, this month, last couple months now, China sells more both battery electric vehicles and hybrids than all cars that the U.S. sells at all. It's done deal across the world. If you globally, we just did a show, right? So that it's a 30+% increase in sales of EVs and BEVs. And there was only a 3% increase in US. So people think that it was slowed down here. So at the same time that EVs are growing everywhere else, you got the US government recognizing, hopefully, that energy is important, battery is important. So they're going to give those incentives, but they cut solar and energy, and they cut the incentives for EVs. And so these, U.S. domestic legacy automakers, what are they going to do? They've lowered their EV production, but they're going to move forward with these battery electric vehicle battery factories. If these can be reused for mega packs or something like that, then they're going to be in a brand new business. But they need to do something with this extra supply.
Well, let's talk about that. BMW is investing almost $2 billion to build in Spartanburg, South Carolina, with $700 million allotted to the development of a battery assembly facility near Woodruff. And of course, they're partnering with AESC, a fairly large battery company, for a plant in Florence, South Carolina. Ford's building an LFP plant in Michigan. And General Motors is also doing a LFP plant in the area as well. Hyundai has a partnership with SK Innovations, established a joint venture to build a $5 billion battery plant in Georgia. And LG Energy Solutions formed a partnership to build another battery factory in Georgia that could build 300,000 EVs per year. Toyota's got a plant in North Carolina. Honda partnered with LG Energy Solutions to provide lithium-ion batteries. Although on this one, it's worth noting that Honda has announced that they've stopped development of EVs at the moment, as I recall. And on these LFP ones, both Ford and GM, those could be used in stationary storage as well. LFP is the preferred chemistry for stationary storage. It's not as energy dense. It doesn't need to be. You can just put it there, and it has higher cycle life. It can charge to 100 without any degradation. It's got a lot of features working for it, and it's lower cost. So let's look at some of those announcements. We've got Panasonic begins mass production at new factory in Kansas, aiming for annual capacity of 32 gigawatt hours. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, these are great. This is great news. They need to continue moving forward with these plans. And, the cost of batteries has just plummeted. Didn't you say it was a 40% reduction in 2024? And Tony Sebas mapped out what's going to happen. And eventually, we're going to get to nearly free, right? Because you got solar from the sun, then you got these batteries. This is going to be just changing the game significantly. So it's like it's a trend that you cannot stop. This is technology that you cannot stop. So you go ahead and build these factories. This is the demand is going to be so much higher because of the requirement for AI data warehouses. You need to do this. That's why I just keep questioning why did you? And I guess the answer is like they cannot sell electric vehicles with a profit. But it's so unfortunate that the U.S. is stymied that way, and they can't use them for electric vehicles. So I don't know what's going to happen to these guys. Honestly, I'm just kind of trying to figure this out. Well, do you think that there will be too much supply, or is that just such a thing?
I mean, they could always export it, but no, they would just ramp down. They would just run below capacity. There will always be, it's tough to say. Not all of these companies can sell to Tesla, but they could certainly sell to themselves for hybrids instead, if that's the route they're going. That they would have enough in-house production. Here's GM's Ultium sales
Ultium
cells.
sales. Yeah, it
So
exists.
yeah, well, I mean, I guess, and they're going to challenge China's LFP monopoly with upgraded battery factory. That's great. Um, I guess that's fair to say that they would. China does have a bit of a de facto LFP monopoly because they were able to develop the technology sooner while it was still under patent than other manufacturers. So 2.3 billion at Spring Hill, Tennessee. We've also got the Ford plows ahead on EV battery factory amid political storm. What a weird choice of title there. Ford Motors is pushing ahead with a politically controversial battery factory in Michigan. Ford's argument is that by building batteries using technology licensed from CATL, just like Tesla is doing in Nevada, it is helping to reshore important manufacturing expertise that was long ago ceded to China. That's the critical part, is we don't have the expertise domestically. We do now have enough of the pieces that we can put the batteries together. Unlike, I've seen people suggesting that Tesla get into drones. They should make drones. Great. You can design one, you can build the housing, but a lot of the components we just don't have in the US. With batteries, we do have enough of the pieces that we can get it put together. Their capacity, 20 gigawatt hours, a fine start. This makes in the quest to make more affordable electric vehicles, LFP have emerged as a reliable, cost-effective solution. Energy density has gotten to the point where obviously they work for many applications, including automotive. But the big story I wanted to get to is This scary one. China puts new restrictions on EV battery manufacturing technology.
Hmm.
Beijing will now require a license for any effort to transfer abroad technologies crucial for producing inexpensive electric cars.
Yeah, I'm hoping that what this is it's a bargaining chip, right? We're just now resolving the tax tariff scenario, and this is one of their bargain chips. It's a big one.
Yes. The idea, well, look all the way back to the silk trade. China protected their silk industry by making the exportation of silkworms and anything related to silkworms illegal. And it took monks a whole lot of walking over a course of years to get silkworms out of China. This is one way to protect your domestic industries. The plan could make it harder for car makers to set up factories overseas, as the European Union has pushed them to do. Effective immediately, any overseas transfers would require a permit. Chinese manufacturers have achieved important breakthroughs in the past 5 years in making the batteries in an inexpensive way that can provide considerable driving range. And the new generation of batteries is central to China's success in building cars that are considerably cheaper.
Yeah, this is where I think if you go back and sorry about the noise, guys. If you go back and look at the list that we went through, most of these domestic legacy automakers they are partnering with a Chinese battery maker, which is perfectly fine. That's great, and so they're going to come across this. But what did Tesla do? Tesla announced that they're going to create their own LFP factory by themselves on their own, and it's going to be cheaper. They say it's going to be cheaper than the the Chinese batteries prior to the tariffs that come in, importing it in here. So
Hmm.
they may not need Tesla may not need to be worried about something like this, but of course they need as many batteries as they can. Question for you, Brian, is like it just made me realize that what's going to happen here is that all these automakers are going to, and thankfully they will, move forward with these battery factories, but then they can't use them for themselves. So then they're going to make it cheaper for their competitor, Tesla, to take advantage of it. It's like their own demise.
And not just Tesla, but Panasonic is making batteries for Rivian. Uh, all of these battery companies could be selling to Lucid or other domestic companies. China has close to 50 graduate programs that focus on either battery chemistry or the closely related subject of battery metallurgy. By contrast, only a handful of professors in the United States are working on it. 50 graduate programs. The days of thinking of China as a copy and paste country ended 25, 30 years ago, but the shadow is still there, and people don't seem to understand that this is an unstoppable engineering force in front of us. So, yeah, lithium iron phosphate batteries, which were invented nearly 30 years ago in the US. But for many years, these batteries could be fully recharged only a few times anyway. Uh, the idea was that they were trapped under license, and China got a special deal where they said, look, we know we can't stop you from making the batteries. As long as you don't export them, we won't give you trouble. Just don't export them. Or if you do, there was some outrageous price on them. So they effectively were contained within China. Whereas in other countries, specifically the US, you couldn't sell LFPs until the patent expired. And the way patent law is, means that you couldn't even do the research on the batteries. Any research that was completed before the patent expired could attach to the original patent. So they just kept hands off. We won't touch it until the clock runs down. So yeah, there are this will how big of a obstacle is it getting if we can't get key technologies from China, what are we going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to become a very big obstacle because this is important. Batteries, energy, it's the deciding factor of who's going to win economy, wars, everything. So it is very concerning for me. The big, beautiful bill kinds of cuts solar and energy at its knees. We need to be encouraging development here, which is great news. You see these companies, that's why they're incentivizing them. But if China decides to control, minerals, I think Elon pointed out that these exotic minerals are important. The rare earth minerals are important, but it's actually not finding them, it's the processing of them that's important. So there's a way for the US to counter, but the US government doesn't seem to understand. I don't know yet. Hopefully I'm wrong, but they don't seem to understand this. And it's not good news what they've done with the big beautiful bill. So
It's
yeah.
very frustrating. It gives a lot of opportunity. It kicks the door off the hinges for China to dominate international markets. Because if you look at places where there's no domestic industry to protect, their imports are often given a level playing field, and imports from the U.S. cannot compete on price with imports from China. Or in some cases from India. I was talking with a gentleman who's Casey. His brother-in-law has a Mahindra in Peru, or drove a Mahindra. He goes, it was cheap. It was terrible. It was the worst car he'd ever had. But the Chinese cars don't suffer that fate. The last super, super important thing I wanted to mention is I need a favor, guys. Subscribe. Subscribe. That's it. Super easy. It doesn't cost a thing. But if you want it to cost a thing, I've got all kinds of options like that too that help out the channel. But subscribing is a good first step. I appreciate it. Guys, in the comments, what did we miss? What do we misunderstand? Leave it. I beg of you, you must leave it. And you can subscribe, you can like, you can leave a comment, you can do all those things to engage the algorithm, the dreaded, dreaded algorithm. Check out Brighter with Herbert, see what he's up to, and everybody else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots on the flippity flop.